In this session, we will be discussing access request workflows. We will go through the steps to define the catalog structure, how we can add and remove applications from the catalog, and then configure the approval workflows. We will also look at the end-user experience to approve or reject requests. In most cases, access is granted in one of two ways. The first option is through birthright rules. These are rules that evaluate criteria such as your job title, department, location, or other attributes that are used in your environment. Based on these attributes, access can be automatically granted. An example of a birthright access could be a rule that creates an AD account for the user, puts them in the right OU, sets the required group memberships, network drives, and creates a mailbox. Birthright rules enable access to be applied in a consistent way and can reduce the amount of time needed for onboarding, transfers, and terminations. Another way to gain access is by creating a request. Either the employee or their manager can create a request for an account or entitlements. If the access requires authorizations, then one or more people may be required to approve the request. Once all the authorizations have been obtained, the system can either automatically provision access or a notification can be sent to the service desk to have someone manually provision the access. Even if access is provisioned manually, there are compliance benefits to this process. In this session, we will review the steps required to configure OpenIAM to support access request workflows. Applications and their entitlements are organized in the service catalog by categories. While OpenIAM provides an out-of-the-box category structure, customers should define their own structure to better align with how their users work and use terminology that they are familiar with. In this section, we will describe how you can create your own category structure. Categories are a type of resource. All resources, regardless of type, are part of the OpenIAM access control model. Categories can have child categories. In this way, we can appropriately categorize all applications and provide end users with an intuitive interface to find what they are looking for. As we mentioned earlier, categories are a type of resource. To create a new category, you only need to go to the web console and navigate to the resource section. Complete the form and submit to create a resource. We will now demonstrate how to do this. As you can see, we are already logged into the OpenIAM web console. Go to the Access Control menu and select Resources. You will see a rather large list of resources. We can filter by application categories to limit our view to the objects that we care about. Next, select Create New Resource from the side menu bar. You will see the common form to create all resources. From the Resource Type drop-down, select Application Category and then fill out the form and click on Submit. If you need to support multiple languages, then you should fill out the display name values for the languages that need to be supported. Towards the bottom of the form, you will see checkboxes for 3 attributes that are found on all resources. Is visible can be used to hide a resource. Is public means that all authenticated users, regardless of role, can see these resources. After the form has been submitted, a new category will be created in our system. To validate that the category was created successfully, we can go to the self-service portal. By selecting Create a Request for Myself, we can navigate to the catalog and the category structure. Here we can see the new top-level category that we just created. As you define your category structure, there will be some categories that are children of existing categories. To convert the category that we created earlier to a child category, we need to go back to our resource view in the web console. From this Edit Resource screen, click on Entitlements in the side menu. Here, we can right-click on Child Resource and select the application category. If go back to self-service and refresh our view, we can see that our category is now a child of the Business App top-level category. The next step in our journey is to associate an application to a category. As discussed in a previous section, applications that are involved in user provisioning are represented as either managed systems or manual managed systems. Each of these is a type of resource. Since application onboarding was covered in an earlier section, we will assume that you have already created a resource. To associate an application to a category, simply go to the Managed System menu and find the application that you want to work with. Open the details and scroll down the page and find the drop-down for categories. Select your category and save. We can now proceed to defining approval workflows. To define the approval flow, we first need to determine A. Where will we place the approval steps? It can be at either the application or entitlements level. If it's at the application level, then all entitlements can inherit this approval flow. If you place them at the entitlement level, then you will need to define them for each entitlement. If you have a small number of entitlements, then this is fine. If you have thousands of entitlements, then you will have a maintenance nightmare. We often recommend to our customers that they can define the approval flow at the application level and then override it for select entitlements. In this way, you have the maintainability without giving up flexibility. B. We need to define how many steps are required in the approval process and who will be the approver. C. We need to determine if there is a need to define reminders or escalations for situations where the approver does not respond in a timely manner. Once the planning is done, we can define the approval workflow. We need to first select either the application or the entitlement. Then we can go to the Approver Association side menu. On the Approval Association screen, we can define the approval flow. To define the approval flow, first navigate to the Resource section and find the managed system that you are interested in. We can filter either by name or by type. To filter by type, select either Managed System or Manual Managed System. If our approval flow will require approval by an application owner or admin, then we need to define that on this screen. You can select either a single owner or a group of owners. You can select a group when anyone in a group can be an approver. Save your changes and then go to the Approver Association screen. To add an approver, click on the New Approver Step button. On this dialog box, you can select the type of approver followed by the person or group that should be notified on either acceptance or rejection of this step. If you select Supervisor, then you must select the type of supervisor. This feature supports cases where a person may have more than one manager. In this case, we will select the default supervisor type. To add additional approval steps, you need to click on the New Approver Step button again and repeat the process. Once you have defined your approval flow, save your configuration. As we saw in the last section, we are not required to provide an approver for each application or entitlement. There are two ways that we can configure the system. The first option is that if an approver is not defined, then it means that no approval is required and requests for an application or entitlement will be automatically approved. The second option is to define a global default approver. In this case, when no approver has been provided, then we can use the global configuration. These configurations are defined in the Workflow section of the System Configuration menu. To review how we can do this, go into the Web Console and select System Configuration under the Administration menu option. Then go to the Workflow tab. Here you will see a variety of system-level configurations related to workflows. The property that we are interested in is called Default Workflow Approver. To change the approver, remove the current value, and then search to find the user. Save your changes. A default approver at the system level can be helpful in catching potential configuration issues such as a configuration that has been overlooked. Once this is in place, we need to consider how we want to define our approval flow. There are three choices. We can define the approval flow at the application level. We can also define the approval at the entitlement level. However, at many of our customers, they have thousands of entitlements for a given application. Assigning entitlements at the entitlement level creates an unacceptable maintenance nightmare. To address this problem, OpenIAM allows entitlements to be defined at the application level and then overridden, as needed, at the entitlement level. To enable this option, you only need to enable the Use Approver Association on Role or Group option on the Workflow System Configuration screen. As we discussed earlier, we can define approvers at either the application level or at the entitlement level. To enable this functionality, return to the Workflow tab in the System Configuration section. Next, scroll part of the way down to the Use Approver Association checkbox. After enabling this option, Click on Save. By enabling this option, you can define approval flows at the entitlement level that override the flow defined at the application or resource level. In most cases, when a workflow step requires approval, a notification email is sent to the approver. This is to let them know that a request requires their attention. The email notification will also contain some details about the request. In OpenIAM, there are several types of emails to support the various types of requests. Each of these notification emails is defined as a template so that it can be personalized. Customers can further modify these emails by going to the Mail Template Editor in the Web Console. The Mail Template Editor is found in the Administration menu of the Web Console. By entering the template name in the Mail Template Name field, we can load the template and related information. In this case, we are going to load the Request Approved template, which is sent upon completion of each approval step. Another template is available to handle rejections. The field labeled Mail Template Subject defines the subject that end users will see on their emails. Similarly, the section labeled Mail Template Content is the body of the notification email. You can type your message in this section. The field values in curly brackets represent placeholder for fields that should be inserted into your email. In this case, most of the available fields are already on the template. If you wanted to add other fields, you can scroll to the bottom for page and select additional fields from the drop-down. In the next section, we will review how end users can create and approve requests. As a first step, let's log into the self-service portal. In the self-service portal, there are several ways to initiate a request. The header search allows you to create a request for anyone in the system. Alternatively, you can use the Direct Reports feature to create a request for one of your subordinates. In this case, we are going to use the Create Request for Myself feature. As we navigate through the process of creating a request, you will notice that there are 3 options. You can use the catalog to make requests for individual entitlements. Alternatively, you can use Select from Profile. This option allows you to select profiles or templates which are predefined groups of entitlements. You can also opt to clone another user's rights. You should use this feature with caution. Users tend to accumulate rights, and this feature creates the possibility of passing them on to other users. For this example, we are going to use the catalog. After selecting the Service Catalog option, you will see the categories that you have defined. Based on your structure, may need to drill down into the tree of child categories. Upon selecting the final category, you will see the list of applications or services associated with that category. Select the application that you are interested in and then click on Next. We see the list of entitlements that are available for the selected application. You will notice that for each entitlement there is a column for access rights and max duration. Access rights can be used for selecting a permission such as read or write access on an entitlement. It can also be used for application-specific permissions. For example, in a banking application for managing loans, there could be credit approval limits. The list of access rights can contain the approval thresholds. The max duration value can be used to limit access to an entitlement for a limited period. This can be helpful in managing access that is sensitive or privileged. To request access, we can add the entitlements to the shopping cart. This is similar in concept to shopping for products at an e-commerce site. On the next screen, we can add additional details about how long we want access to a specific entitlement. This is only required for entitlements where the max duration parameter has been defined. Otherwise, this value is optional. Before moving to the summary screen, we need to provide answers to the justification questions. Answers to these questions provide information for the approver as to why this access is being requested. Later, this information can support compliance activities. OpenIAM allows you to define justification questions for each application. The last step is to review the summary of your request. If you are satisfied with the information that has been captured, then you can submit the request. The submit operation is similar in concept to a checkout on an e-commerce site. After you submit the request, a workflow will be initiated and notifications will be sent to the approver. After a request has been created, the requester can monitor the status of the request by using the View My Request feature. Here you can see all of your open requests. If you click on the orange button in the Actions column, you can view the request details. Here you can see the current approver as well as the full list of approvers that are required to sign off on this request. You can also go to the Progress Tracker to a more visual view of the approval process. Let's look at the approval process. There are 3 ways that we can view and approve a request. One option is to approve directly from email. Another option is to use the Microsoft Teams integration where a Teams bot can help you receive notifications and approve requests. The last option, and the one that we will focus on, is approval from the self-service portal. We can sign into the portal as an approver. From the inbox, we can see the list of open requests. By clicking on the orange button, we can see the request details. If the details look okay, we can approve the request. If we want to reject part of the request, then we can click on the Do Not Approve checkbox next to the entitlement. We can also reject the entire request. We can delegate this request to another person if appropriate. OpenIAM also supports out-of-office delegation. In some situations, it may be necessary to leave comments or include attachments as part of the approval process. This can be done using the Comments button. In this case, we are going to approve the request. Since this request requires a second approver, we will now log in as the security manager and repeat the approval process. As the second approver reviews the details on this form, they can see when the previous approvers acted on this request and any comments that they may have left. After the last approver approves the request, OpenIAM will provision the request if a connector is available. If this was for a manual application, where a connector is not available, then an email notification could be sent to a ticket system to have this request fulfilled. Over time, users may create many requests. There will be times when we need to go back and review a request. This can be done from the Request History feature in the self-service portal. The history view has 2 perspectives. One perspective is based on approval history. These are all requests where you were involved as an approver. The second perspective is My Completed Requests. This is a list of requests that you have created and details that relate to it. After you pick the perspective that is relevant for you, you can use the filter above each column to find the request that you need. In the next section, we will look at the request administration functionality in the self-service portal. As part of normal day-to-day operations, there will be times when an administrator needs to intervene. Common reasons for this include cases such as a request being created by accident. It could also be that the approver is no longer with the firm and we need to reassign the approver. Alternatively, we may need to kill a request if no one has acted on it for an extensive period of time. For all of these types of cases, the request administration functionality can be helpful. On this screen, we see all the requests that are currently active in the system. There are 2 ways that you can cancel or delegate a request. From this list view, you can select more than one row and select either cancel or delegate. Alternatively, you can click on the Actions button and view the request details. You can then determine if you want to cancel or delegate a request. So far in this tutorial, we have assumed that everyone needs access to the entire service catalog. However, in some environments, organizations want to limit the visibility that users have into the catalog. To support this requirement, we need to go to the System Configuration menu and disable the Is Create Request Categories Disabled checkbox. This checkbox is enabled by default and prevents category-level authorization. By disabling this option, only the categories that a user is entitled to will be shown. Save your changes after updating the configuration. The next step is to entitle a role to an application category. In this case, we are going to update an OpenIAM role, but it can be any role that is used to manage access in the UI. After selecting role, navigate to the role entitlements. You can create the association by first selecting application category as the resource type and then select the category name. Now when a user tries to use the catalog and they are a member of this role, they will only see the entitled categories. That completes our tutorial for access request workflows. For more information, visit the OpenIAM website or the community portal. Thank you for watching.